All right. Excellent. Nice to see you again, and welcome to that part 2 of that Ayurvedic herbology, which you know by now is not Ayurvedic herbology, but the knowledge of substance and qualities of those substances. So before we start, we will start with our initial chant, which is the Ganesha chant. Ganam tva ganapatim havamahi kavim kavinam upamastravastamam jeshtarajam brahmanam.
Okay.
How
do I make this picture go away?
Sida sadanam vakratunda mahakaya surya koti samaprabha nirvignam kurumideva Avaryeshu sarvada siddhi buddhi shakti sahita Shriman Mahaganadhipataye namo namaha Nirvignam Kuru. All right. Again, welcome everybody. And somebody has their volume microphone on, and I would highly invite them to mute it. And today we're going to be covering the rest of the herbs that we didn't cover last time. So since we have a lot of things to cover, I'll get right on it. First of all, just for you to know, typically when we're creating, we spoke last time about creating formulas. And in Ayurveda, typically when we're creating formulas for Vata, Pitta, Kapha, they're going to be what we call dosha pratyanikas. These dosha pratyanikas are herbs that are traditionally used to pacify a dosha. So typically for Vata, the dosha pratyanika is ashwagandha or dashamula. For Pitta, the dosha pratyanika is typically shatavari or guduchi. And the dosha pratyanika for Kapha is normally viewed as being either punarnava or chitrak. A lot of people are now using things like chinema or gugulu. So there's a little bit of a variety of things that are being used as dosha pratyanika for Kapha. In general, what these herbs are going to do is for the Vata people that are actually having a lot of ether and air, this is going to actually provide some grounding. For the Pitta people that are normally going to be a little bit on the hot side, having burning sensations, these are going to be herbs, both guduchi and shatavari, that are going to be cooling. And for Kapha, because they're normally going to have a lot of fat or a lot of water, these are going to be actually herbs that are going to help balance that and reduce that amount of fat or water. And maybe they're going to be also heating herbs to stoke the digestive fire. Now, you do need to know that we also have herbs for the dhatus and we also have herbs for the srotas, but that's not going to be the topic of today's conversation. So maybe one day further along, we can cover those. So one of the herbs that we are going to cover, the first herb that we're going to cover, sorry for that, is actually going to be ashwagandha. So you most likely have heard about ashwagandha, and ashwagandha is considered one of the most popular herbs of Ayurveda. And ashwagandha means actually smells like a horse. So the root, if you actually smell it, smells like a little bit like a horse. But the botanical name is Withania somnifera, and somnifera means it makes you fall asleep. So it's very interesting. Vaidya Gupta says, that youth comes with the promise of going away, but old age comes and is here to stay. And ashwagandha is viewed as one of the herbs that is considered an adaptogen and a rejuvenative in Ayurveda, and it's really the one that is most indicated for people that are debilitated, weak, or have high vata. Overall, the rasa is going to be bitter astringent, and the virya is going to be heating, and the vipak is sweet. And you need to know that, this is just a piece of knowledge, that when you're buying it in commerce, there are going to be 4 commercial grades, and the 4 commercial grades are depending on the size of the root. So this is a native plant to India, but it actually adapts itself quite well. So now it has actually, even in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, and it can even grow here in the United States. Overall, the herbal action of this particular herb is one of an adaptogen. And what an adaptogen does, it actually helps the body respond to stress. So it's basically considered a building herb and a very good adaptogen, because basically it will help the nerves and it will actually work as an immunomodulator. Now, it is overall viewed also as an aphrodisiac as well as an anti-tumor. And there are a lot of studies that are being made on ashwagandha because it's such a popular herb. When we're looking at traditionally, and the traditional use of ashwagandha is that normally we're going to be using it with a milk preparation, or we're going to be having ghee preparations. So we're going to add it to milk, or we're going to add it to ghee. And the reason being is that this herb is rich in lactones, alkaloids, and sucrose. So these phytosterols also blend well with milk. They're not well extracted in a water base, and they actually do better with a milk base or an oily base. So using ashwagandha oil or ashwagandha ghee, or actually adding the ashwagandha to the milk, or having even an ashwagandha pill, but followed by milk or even almond milk or rice milk with these oily substances, actually helps the body assimilate them a little bit better. So I am talking about ashwagandha. So somebody's wondering, what am I covering? I'm covering ashwagandha. And now I have the chat box up here, so that's a good thing to have. And basically, this is considered one of the best tonics in Ayurveda. We will also use it for people that have Alzheimer's, people that have nervous exhaustion, and also people wanting better restful sleep. So this is promotes sound and restful sleep. And, so there's this little thing about the action, the aphrodisiac action versus the sound and sleep. It's like, how much can you take for it to be an aphrodisiac before you get sleepy? Well, you have a very short window. So in Ayurveda, you really have to be careful with the quantity that is being used. So if you want the aphrodisiac action, you're only using like a quarter of a teaspoon to half a teaspoon. If you really want to help with sleep, you're normally going to be using like a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of this herb. Now, it is also used when people are going to be having consumption or MS, and it's also considered a very good herb to help women who are too weak or debilitated to conceive. However, because it's an abortifacient, it's normally not recommended as a herb alone to have during pregnancy. So what your takeaway from ashwagandha should be, it should be one that should be used anytime there is weakness. And this is also referring to muscle weakness. So if you have been bedridden or in a cast or have had an accident and you're not using your muscles in a very efficient way, you would want to use ashwagandha to get more tone. But on the other hand, the other great use is going to be for ADD, ADHD, post-traumatic stress disorder, hyper sensitivity, because it's truly a nervine sedative. Now, we do use it also in conjunction with medication to reduce drug dependency. So let's say that somebody's trying to get off some type of medication, and or even some type of drug, and this can even be a social drug, Normally, ashwagandha will help in reducing the anxiety of the drug addiction. So the question came in is, can it be used for children? And, realistically, yes, it can be used for children. Normally, we tend to use ashwagandha ghee when it comes to children, or adding the ashwagandha in milk. And normally we're using a combination. I must say, whenever I use ashwagandha in practice, I will always add some cardamom or some ginger or some cinnamon to make it a little bit more digestible, because it can feel like a hard rock for somebody that's taking it. So even for children, to make it a little bit more pleasing, I will always add, half ashwagandha, half cardamom, and sometimes to that combination, I will add cocoa powder. And now we can put it in a milk, and the person will actually we're doing very well. Now, it is also used when there is rheumatic swelling. So sometimes when people have rheumatoid arthritis or even osteoarthritis, they can get some swelling in the joint, and it's actually considered a very good herb for that. So overall, it will decrease vata, it will increase pitta, and decrease kapha. And if you're looking at this as a herb, and if you do have a Sebastian Pole book, you would find more references on page 133. So if you do have the Sebastian Pole book, it's on 133. So half a teaspoon of children, 1 to 2 for adults, absolutely. So one thing you need to know, by the way, is that you're going to be taking this herb specifically more so at night, because it does have this component of making people sleepy. If you're taking it during the day to give you more energy, you're only using a quarter to a teaspoon to half a teaspoon. So during the day, do not take a full-on amounts of ashwagandha, because you will get tired and you will get sleepy. Now, there's one more thing about ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is used for emaciation. It's used for, these vata conditions. So overall, people that have been using ashwagandha, have gained some weight. So it's not, typical, but no, if you do have ashwagandha mixed with Vidari is going to be the herb that will be the proponent of gaining weight. So if you do want to gain muscle mass, you need to combine this herb with something like Vidari, and we will be talking about this herb later on today. The other thing is ashwagandha is heating. So this part of vata down, pitta up, kapha down. Pitta up. If a man is using it, because it also helps with sexual vigor and more sexuality, it's real aphrodisiac for men and aphrodisiac tonic for men. You do have to be careful, because if they're pitta predominant, you're going to have to use a cooling herb with it to kind of tone it down. And if they're true pitta and it's the summer, you want them to back away from using ashwagandha. Okay. All right, so if I would say overall ashwagandha, I still see it as an 80% male herb and 20% female herb. I would say ashoka is the contrary. Ashoka is a 90% female herb and 10% male herb. And ashoka is the next herb that we're going to be looking at. So in general, ashoka is viewed as a tridoshic herb, but in excess, it can increase vata. It's overall viewed as bitter and astringent, cooling, and pungent. And Ayurvedic herbs have prabhav, and prabhav is considered the unexpected action. So hold on, before I move on to ashoka, there's a question that I didn't pick up. So how long does it take before ashwagandha starts working? I would say that ashwagandha is something that you could really tell if it's working, and you would be able to tell within 2 to 3 days maximum. And normally, Okay, so normally you can tell with that. So the question came is can ashwagandha be added with trifle? I don't know what that is, but I presume it's triphala to offset weight gain. So there's one thing in general. So triphala is made out of three fruits. So it's not. Let me just spell it. So it's triphala. Okay. So three means three, phala, phla means fruits. Okay, so three phala is made out of the three fruits, which are amalaki, bibitaki, haritaki. So these three are quite overall astringent, and they are cleansing. So we rarely mix ashwagandha, which is a tonifier, with a cleansing herb, because basically they're opposite in action. So I would say, no, you wouldn't want to do that. And on the other hand, is triphala is high in tannins. So when you have things that are high in tannins, this would actually disrupt the absorption of a nutritive herb. So theoretically, in drug-herb interaction, we always say you don't want to be taking herbs with tannins because tannins will not allow for good absorption and good assimilation. So theoretically, you're not supposed to be taking your herbs with coffee. You're not supposed to be taking your herbs with tea because those are rich in tannins. And so therefore, now your body will not be metabolizing appropriately the constituents of a nutritive herb. Okay, so no, I would not typically mix ashwagandha with triphala to offset that. And so you have to pick your battles. So as a herbalist, I always say you have to decide what is most important. What is the most important piece? The fact that you are getting off some drugs or off some medication, and you're having panic attack, anxiety attack, and that you need to take care with ashwagandha, or you do want to sleep a little bit better, and you do want to lose a little bit of weight. So how to do it? Well, in Ayurveda, you would have to say, well, probably if you want to sleep better, you're going to be doing the ashwagandha at night. If you're going to be wanting to lose weight, you probably will move your gugulu or your triphala gugulu to a morning routine. So adding cinnamon to coffee, same concept, right? I don't know. Cinnamon to coffee. So normally we add cardamom to coffee to offset the acidity. Adding cinnamon to coffee increases the heat of the coffee itself, so I'm not too sure about that. So let's go back to Ashoka, which, if you have the Sebastian Pohl book, is going to be on page 132. So, so some herbs have an unexplained action. And I don't know if I had mentioned to you the fact that there were wars between gods and the demons. And these are cited in the ancient texts, not of Ayurveda, but in the Vedas, and so in the Padma Puranas. There are a lot of stories of different deities and beings taking refuge because of their subtleness inside of plants and trees. And so, being so subtle, they went into plants and trees to regain their energy. And after they regained their energy, they were able to get out of the trees and vanquish the demons. However, because of this union with the plant matter, they also left some secrets of them with the plants themselves. Now, Ashoka is believed to be one of these trees, and so it will have an unexplained action which you cannot describe by the rasa vira vipak. So normally, rasa is basically the taste of the herb. So it's actually the action that the herb has on the tongue. Virya is overall systemic effect, the effect that you have from the moment of assimilation to excretion. Vipak is the post-digestive effect, So what it will do for you in the long run overall with what you are eliminating. Okay, so it's the action on the malas, so urine, feces, and sweat. Prabhav is considered the action which is unexplained and is beyond the rasa vipak. So if we're looking for a herb that can do something specific, we kind of want to look at something for the prabhav, if there is one, because it wouldn't matter what the rasa, what the virya, what the vipak is, that herb can help. So in the case of Ashoka, the prabhav is being a friend of woman and remover of grief. Okay, so this plant is actually considered the female plant or the female tree for which you can actually have many things. So on one hand, it is said that the Lord Buddha was born under the Ashoka tree. It is also said that when Sita was abducted by Ravana, she was confined to the Ashoka Vatika, which is a garden of Ashoka trees that consoled her. But truly, in Ayurveda, this is viewed as a herb that will help in any type of female pathology. So we're going to be using it for fungal yeast infections. We're going to be using it for uterine fibroids. We're going to be using it for amenorrhea. We're going to be using it for dysmenorrhea. We're going to be using it for any type of menorrhagia, leukorrhea. This would be actually very good. And it is said that it is tonic to the endometrium of the uterus. So basically anybody that would have endometriosis would do very well. So Ashoka, A-S-H-O-K-A, is botanical name is Saraka indica, is basically a tridoshic herb. So rasa was astringent and bitter, virya was cooling, post-digestive effect pungent, but we don't care because the prabhav is a friend of woman and a remover of grief. So this supersedes any of those qualities. So that's why it ends up being a tridoshic. Even if we would analyze these rasa virya vipak, it would actually be a vata provoking, but it's not true. It actually helps even conditions of vata menstrual disorders. So it's used for amenorrhea, so when there is no bleeding whatsoever. It's used also when there is menorrhagia, so the profuse bleeding. It's used for leukorrhea, when there are white discharges for the vagina. It's also used as an analgesic for spasmodic dysmenorrhea. So when you have your pain linked to the cycle, this is a very good analgesic. And Ayurveda will have to qualify what type of pain this is. So a pain linked to a cycle can be a vata pain because of excess dryness in the artavavahasrotas, makes it so that there is no elasticity in the vessels, and now we're having pain because of basic stagnation and rigidity. So it's the rigidity and cold that have made the vessels so small that now the blood can't flow, this creating pain. The pitta type of pain in dysmenorrhea is more of an inflammatory pain. So the endometrial lining is now inflamed, and now there is heat associated in the pelvic area. So now this is a pitta type of dysmenorrhea. Kapha type of dysmenorrhea is instead when there is congestion and blockage due to heavy, slow, cold quality. So because you can have vata, pitta, kapha dysmenorrhea, normally Ashoka can be used for all, but you have to be careful of using hot or cold. So hot can be used, or warm packs or hot oil can be used typically only for vata and kapha type of dysmenorrhea. If there is pitta type of dysmenorrhea, we need to use cold applications instead. Okay, so now another thing that can happen for women is having swollen or congested or fibrocystic breast tissue. So actually, ashoka is viewed as the herb that can be used for this. Now, in general, it is also considered the best of the herbs that will prevent miscarriages. So if somebody is trying to conceive and has had histories of miscarriages, this is definitely the herb to use. So now we have to move on to the next herb. All right. Okay, so the book I mentioned was Ayurvedic Medicine by Sebastian. All right. All right. So, okay. So the next thing that we're going to, so if you do have his book, it's going to be on page 132. Now, the next thing we need to cover is actually Brahmi, because everybody talks about Brahmi and nobody knows what they're talking about, which is true. It's a true story. It's not my invention. So nobody knows what they're talking about because basically we have two Brahmis. And so because we have two Brahmis, so the north of India calls one plant Brahmi and the south of India calls another plant Brahmi. So I've decided not to call any herb Brahmi, but rather to call it by the Latin binomial. However, for you to know, calling something Brahmi, so, and we might be calling centella that way, or we might be calling bacopa that way, means that basically it exudes the Shakti of the Brahma. So basically, it is the Shakti of Brahma and the Shakti of Sarasvati that can be yielded by this herb. So Brahmi is usually spelled like that. Okay? So we're going to talk about two. The most common used Brahmi in the Ayurvedic community is actually Centella asiatica, which is also gotu kola. Okay, so we're going to talk about this one first. So in Ayurveda, this is one that actually brings about more sattva. And so overall, it is bitter, astringent, sweet, cooling, and sweet. And is viewed as the prabhav of Amedya and Rasayana. Okay, so Medya means brain tonic, and Rasayana is a rejuvenator enhancer. And typically, we would usually take this herb either with ghee or with honey. But now, there's everything. We can find it in tincture, we can find it in asavas, we can find it in, juice. There are so many possibilities. But overall, what you need to know is that this one actually is one of the herbs, one of the few herbs that actually can increase the secretion of serotonin. So this is actually one of the best herbs when we want to achieve a better level of calmness, but also more awareness, intelligence, and also clarity in perception. Now, it's also viewed as a heart tonic, and in Ayurveda, you do need to know that the mind resides not only in the brain, but also in the heart. So if we're having heart issues that are driven by anxiety, this is a good herb to use. If we would have heart issues which are truly driven by cardiac muscle, instead we would use Arjuna, which is another herb. I'll write it here. And Arjuna is basically the cardiotonic by excellence in Ayurveda. But what it does, it actually works on cardiac muscle. So it doesn't work on calming the nervousness that could have got you to high BP. Okay. Now, because it increases the level of serotonin in the body, you do need to be careful about using this with anybody who is on a SSRI or SNRI. So SSRI or SNRI are things like, antidepressant drugs, which are very common in the market. And basically, what they mean are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor or serotonin neuroepinephrine reuptake inhibitor. So basically what it means is the body produces serotonin. Normally the serotonin dies and it is reabsorbed by the body. However, by taking an inhibitor, we're actually allowing this born serotonin to circulate without end. So normally you don't want to add a herb that could increase the serotonin if somebody's already on an SSRI, because we can develop serotonin syndrome. So just for you to know, this is one of the herbs that I would say, although people only say, oh, you could have contact dermatitis, that's not the only problem with this herb. You can actually create serotonin syndrome, and because this is not a pathology class, I'm not going to describe it, but you can look it up. Okay. However, this is actually one of the herbs that is used mainly if there is nervousness, anxiety, or if the nervous anxiety is making it so that now there's an issue with perception and we cannot use our mental faculties with clarity. That is, you might think about something but not be able to reach out for the right word. Or you might be able to see something but not connect what you're seeing. Normally, Brahmi is the herb that is used to create a better pattern. And it's actually also used when there is retardation, either mental or behavioral retardation. So many times you'll find that Brahmi is mixed with ashwagandha, because also ashwagandha is a herb that helps the mind as a tonic. But ashwagandha is heating, Brahmi is cooling, and both Brahmis are cooling. Now, Centella asiatica gotukola is also used. It does help with autism, yes. So the question came in, would it help with autism? And the answer is yes. And it also is used when there are skin disorders that are from nervous reactions. So, it might not be the best to use or the only thing that you want to use for psoriasis, but it will definitely help in reducing the scarring and improving wound healing. And anytime that we have skin disorders, which are of kind of mental emotional origin, this is the right herb. So just for you to know, when there is anxiety, if anxiety remains for a period of time, even in Western medicine, it is viewed that anxiety over a month of 3 to 6, over a period of 3 to 6 months, can become depression. But anxiety can manifest in many ways, and also that obsessive compulsive disorder, or that constant scratching, or that is actually a sign of anxiety. So in Ayurveda, Brahmi, Centella asiatica, or gotukola, is viewed as one of the ones that will kind of bring down that level of anxiety, will help the mind see and perceive clearly what is happening. Now, very similar, but a little bit different, is actually going to be bacopa. So bacopa, bacopa, which is also, so it's bacopa monieri, or also herpes monieri, and this one, so I don't know what page you'll find the centella in Sebastian Pole. I didn't put the thing there, but this one is going to be found on page 149. So this one is also cooling, and basically this is also one that is used mainly in ghee, oil, and or milk. Now, it is very true. So the best way to take these are, so as far as both of them are normally taken, because they really, some people say that they're like mind sedative. They really are not really good sedatives. They will actually help you be alert and awake. Okay, so normally you're taking both Bacopa or Centella 3 times a day, and you're normally taking half a teaspoon 3 times a day. It is very true that in classic Ayurveda kind of giving things for the mind, you would want to give it during the night. That way it can nourish the mind and help you the next morning. But I would say I've used, myself and our clients both, and actually using them in the morning and at noon are very good. I don't like using them at night because although Ayurveda would say typically things for the brain or, for the head you would want to use at night, they tend to keep people awake. And so if you're already having difficulty sleeping, you don't want to have awareness in the middle of the night. You want to be sleeping, really. So both of them have sattva, and sattva is the energy of being awake. The night is ruled by tamas, and so you don't really necessarily want to have sattvic things in a tamas time of day or when you should be sleeping. So the modern research, so the difference here is that Bacopa, so it's a little bit of a different plant, and what you're going to have is that it's also astringent, bitter, and sweet, but it's cooling, and it's pungent instead of being sweet. And this is also said to be a remover of epilepsy. So the prabhav is remover of epilepsy and remover of mania. So this is actually very good because it really, really reduces mania. And there are now significant studies that will say that this is a great herb to reduce the morphine withdrawal reduction syndromes, or will increase the the mental cognitive behavior. It will actually help with memory retention and also acquisition, and it will decrease the kind of passive avoidance. I don't know if you've experienced, but every now and then you'll have people that will avoid to confront an issue or will push it aside until really shit hits the fan and has to be dealt with. So if you yourself are one of these, and I know I used to be, actually Bacopa is a really good herb because it has the quality of moving you into, reducing that passive avoidance. And it's great for the intellect. So now we actually have in the market some standardized extracts of Bacopa that are really meant for this kind of use for memory. So yes, the dosage is the same as the previous herb. So that is like when we're talking about kids, we're normally talking about a 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, depending on their age and build. And for the adults, we're normally talking about 1 teaspoon twice a day. Also there depending on their build. Now, one thing you need to know is that when it comes to herbs, we always say that if somebody has a very good regime, so they're eating well, they're exercising, they do yoga, everything works well, they actually need less herb than somebody that's eating poorly and or not exercising at all. So the person that is stagnant will need way more herb than the person that is active. And the same goes for the children. So the children, although they might be, let's say, so you think that because they're 8 years old or 12 years old, you have to go to 1/2 teaspoon. Well, if they're clean, if they're clear, if they're sensitive, they might just be well off with a 1/4 teaspoon of the herb. So overall, Bacopa is actually, this does not have the same action on serotonin as Centella. So this one is actually viewed as safe and can be used, and there have been 0 to none adverse reactions. And again, we would actually use it whenever we have, anything concerning memory, but also if there's epilepsy, if there's mania, if there's hysterics, if the person's sada kapita is all out of the roof, if the person is just, out extreme in terms of judgment, criticism, anger, this is the herb to use because it's great, it's cooling, and it's easy to use. So this is definitely one that you would want to work with. So the next herb that we have is actually gugulu. And I must say, gugulu is very popular in Ayurveda. It's not very popular in my apothecary. It is just for a couple of things, but I'm not a big fan. And you'll see why soon. All right? So gugulu is actually part of the family that also includes frankincense and myrrh. So basically, it's the same family, the Bursace, and and truly, it can make a wonderful resin. But in Ayurveda, it is a very strong medicine, and because it's a strong medicine, it has to be used with caution. And that's why I'm not a big fan of it, because people are gugulu happy, and gugulu can be a very dangerous substance. So in your book, it's going to be on page 191. And overall, it's bitter pungent, heating pungent, and the prabhav of it is being tridoshic. So it said that it will not negatively affect any humor. But you have to be careful, and that is not true. Okay, so first of all, there's a couple of things, and I'm sorry I didn't get it before because I wanted to show you that c'est la vie, because the apothecary is on the other side, so I have to move. I'm here. But basically, so when you buy gugulu, let's say that you're buying gugulu from Mountain Rose Herbs. So Mountain Rose Herbs is where I buy many of my herbs. And basically, when you buy gugulu from Mountain Rose Herbs, what you'll receive is a piece of resin. Okay? So this is all great and dandy if you're going to be using it externally. This is not what is used internally in India. And actually, we call it a process of shodhana, or purification, that has to be done to the gugulu for it to be acceptable to human, but also non-toxic. Okay, so normally the shodhana of gugulu requires it to be boiled in triphala first. Once it has done once you've boiled it in triphala, then it has to be boiled in milk. After it was boiled in milk, it has to be boiled in cow's urine. After cow's urine, it has to be boiled in vitex. After the vitex, it has to be boiled in turmeric. And after that, it has to be fried in ghee. After that, it gets dried and then ground. And the final product is a black powder, which is really sharp, really heating, and really, really blasting. So this is actually used as a yoga vahi. So in Ayurveda, the yoga vahi is basically kind of a catalyst, which is used to get to a medicine to a specific area. So gugulu is considered a yoga vahi. Now, why am I a fan and why am I not a fan? So I am a fan because as a medicine, this is a very strong medicine, that as a medicine is also a poison when it's used in the long term. So there are 5 varieties according to Baba Prakash. Baba Prakash is the author of one of the ancient texts on Ayurvedic medicines. And the black is the best for man. And then you can also have dark blue and golden varieties that are used for elephants. And then you have a white and ruby variety, which is used for horses. And you might be wondering why you need to know this. Well, you know, in Ayurveda, there was King Ashoka in the 14th century, which actually, you know, he was a Buddhist and actually started proposing Ayurveda for animal welfare. And so basically, in that, and because Baba Prakash was written after, there's a lot of information about what herbs can be used for animals. So the ancient text is the Baba Prakasha, and it's a 2-volume set. I don't recommend truly to buy it. I mean, I have it, so here I am saying you shouldn't buy it, but I have it because I need to have everything, obviously. But basically, it's the ancient text that has the information on the herbs, but it's not really detailed, and so frankly, you're better off getting, if you have to buy a book, you get the Sebastian Pohl book, because there's more information in there. But for you to know, Baba Prakasha is a 2-volume set. In one volume, it's written all of the plant matter. In the second volume is animal and mineral department. But basically, so King Ashoka is the one that actually proposed Ayurveda and actually started using Ayurveda on animals. And that's why in Sri Lanka and in Nepal, which were areas where King Ashoka you know, had influence, there's a lot more information about Ayurveda's use in, you know, veterinary. So anyway, so you wouldn't be using the boogaloo that we're using for human for the boogaloo that goes, you know, on your dog or on your horse. You would use some other boogaloo. Okay. So in general, it is also said in Baba Prakash as well as in other texts that boogaloo should truly not be used during the summer. So boogaloo is a substance that should be used normally in the spring or in the fall or in the winter. But because it's so heating and because it's so sharp, because it's so pungent, you really shouldn't be using it in the summer. Unless you have super congestion of some sort or some chronic malady. Okay? So normally, so the only chronic malady would be a cancer or would be some type of polycystic ovarian syndrome or some type of osteoarthritis. But frankly, although boogaloo and the derivatives of boogaloo are used for bones, there are so many better things nowadays that you might be able to choose something else. As far as the resin is concerned, the resin that you can buy from Mountain Rose, this is something that I highly recommend you all get. You don't get too much of it because you're going to keep it forever. So you know your 4 ounces is plenty, because basically what you can do with this is very good to use for fumigation. So the resin of boogaloo is normally used to reduce any type of airborne bacteria in an area, and also to reduce mold. So if there are, and so especially if you're in the northeastern part of the country where you do get mold inside of houses, and if you want to kind of reduce your susceptibility to the mold, you would want to fumigate. And basically what you do is you get one of those charcoal rounds, you light it, and then you put your piece of boogaloo, small, on top of it. It smells wonderful. It's very sweet. And this is helpful to remove mold, and basically kind of, it also works as a pesticide. So you can use it to get rid of animals, insects, and or mold from the area. It's also used for inhalations when there are fungal infections of the lungs, and on a more subtle level, it's used to do clearing. So if you have a parasitic infestation of kind of extrasensory beings, or whatever you want to call it, if you have spirits or whatever, you want to get rid of them, this is the best thing to use. Because realistically, by now, in America, everybody knows, dead or alive, of sage, but they don't know very much about boogaloo. So they respond quite quickly. So this is great. And also, if you have somebody very toxic in your office, or people came and left all of their stuff in your office. I don't know what that is. Um, and you want to clear the energy. This is very good for clearing the energetics. Now, in terms of action internal, after it has been done, all of the shodana, so this powder thing that you get, that is normally used to lower blood cholesterol, and it's also used to increase white blood cells. So normally it's going to be used for treating a variety of conditions, but mainly when there is basically congestion in the person. Now, it is very true that it destroys ama, and it will reduce this excess cholesterol, because it stimulates Meda Dhatu Agni, and it really stimulates the fire. So there are a couple questions that came in. Let me just read here. Can you remember any other really good book on making formulations and steps to make kashayams? I made one yesterday. It was a mess because I used powdered herbs. Yes. All right. So typically the Ayurvedic the Ayurvedic book to make preparations is called the Sharangadara, and he didn't write it all. The Sharangadara Samhita. So the Sharangadara Samhita is a one-volume text. Let's see if I have it here. Sorry, I'm out of your screen, but I'm into the area where I have my books in the office. And missing in action. Okay, so don't know where it is, but the Sharangadara Samhita is the book which has the preparations. But I gotta tell you, if you're into preparations, and you should know Western herbs, this is my favorite book. This book is called The Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook, and it's by James Green. This is the book that I use at the university when I teach preparations. It's a fun book. It has everything from making vinegar infusions, wine infusions, decoctions, you name it, it's in here. And this is a great book. So this is, if you forget the Sharangadara, this one is the book to have, because it's way more practical. And anything from pulses to wines to tinctures to salves, it's in here. So, and that way you can do great things. So the author is James Green, and the book is The Herbal Medicine Maker's Handbook. All right, so let's, okay, so going back to the resin, because let's say that you're buying from Mountain Rose Herbs, and now you get this resin, you're wondering, what am I going to do with it? You can also make a gargle. So normally you can make, okay, so how often can we fumigate with it? Oh, you can fumigate once a day. Not a problem. But, okay, so you got your resin for Mountain Rose, and you bought too much because you thought, oh, it's cheap, I'm going to buy a pound of it. Okay, so you can make a gargle, and normally the gargle or the mouthwash is used when there are bleeding gums, or when there is candida in the mouth. You can use that as a mouthwash. And then you can actually make a paste using lime juice or coconut oil, and this can be put on glandular swellings and or rheumatic joints. God, time flies when you're having fun. So many herbs, so little time. All right, so let me just tell you some of the important Google preparations. And another thing, so yes, you can use it for asthma. How do you make the paste? You actually take so when you get it, you'll have these crumble pieces. And so you want to use the crumble pieces and add lime juice to it, and also some coconut oil to it. And then you basically make a paste, and then you put it topically. Whenever we put a paste topically, lepas You know, in India, they do everything. They put everything directly on the skin. I suggest that whenever you do a paste, and this is valid also for ginger. I know we talked about ginger before as a herb for digestion and kindling agni, but actually the um, the ginger is also used as a very good paste whenever there is cold in the area, or if there are, for example, if there is this dysmenorrhea with pain, you can put a ginger paste between the belly button and the pubic bone. Or if there's lower back pain, you can make a paste and put the ginger powder with water and make a paste and put it on the lower back. It's fantastic. It relieves the pain. And normally, I suggest that you get the Johnson & Johnson 4x4 gauze. So the Johnson & Johnson 4x4 gauze is something that you'll take, and then you'll wet the gauze, and then you could, with a paintbrush, you'll put the paste over it. And then it will make for easy removal because, frankly, we don't have drones here. We have offices with tables and real clean sheets. So you don't want to mess with your herbs. So that's why you would actually apply the herb on top of the gauze, and even for yourself at home, you would apply it over the gauze, and then you would use the extra tissue that comes with that to cover it. And then you can put a hot water bottle or anything to keep it warm. And then to remove, it's very easy because you just throw the gauze away. So how long do you keep it? You normally keep a paste for 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, so great. And you should try the ginger paste. And Denise, I think you would love it. I don't know if you've ever tried to make a ginger paste, but I think if you have any pain anywhere, you can make, you can use 2 to 3, you don't need lime and coconut, just 2 to 3 teaspoons of ginger powder with water, and you mix it up and you apply it with a brush over a gauze and you put it wherever you have pain, and that will relieve it. And you can also use that over the lungs if you are cold in the chest, and that will bring warmth to the lungs. All right, so sorry, we have to move on. So, Triphala. So, Triphala Gugulu, by the way, is normally used. Would fresh ginger be better? Yes, you can use fresh ginger or dry ginger. Because not everybody has fresh ginger, I always recommend to have dry ginger powder at home always available. Because, your fresh ginger may have rotted at the bottom of your drawer in the refrigerator, but the dry ginger powder stays for years, and you can always make a good paste out of it. So the reason I'm not a big fond friend of Gugulu, because it really interacts with the thyroid. So long-term use of Gugulu will cause thyroid problems, and I've seen that over and over again, especially with the use of Triphala Gugulu. Okay, so Triphala Gugulu is it's a combination, obviously, of Triphala and Gugulu, but it also has Pipali in there. And it's normally used for obesity and to lose weight. And it's also used when there is chronic constipation or when there is high toxicity, which is all great and dandy, but usually people get hooked on it because they notice how quickly they lose weight with it. So the combination of Triphala and Gugulu makes it so that it really works quick. So you have to be careful because it will interact with the function of the thyroid after 3 to 6 months. Now, another Gugulu that's available is actually the Gokshuradi Gugulu. So I'll write this one down for you. Gokshuradi Gugulu. And this one is actually used for chronic conditions of enlarged prostate or if there are urinary tract stones. And this is actually going to be breaking those stones. The good thing about Gokshuradi Gugulu is that it's a cooling Gokshura, and the other herbs are cooling while the Gugulu is heating. So it kind of offsets that heating action, so you see less of that effect. No, so Triphala alone without the Gugulu will not affect the thyroid. It's the Gugulu that affects the thyroid. So another famous gugulu that is out there is Kaishor gugulu. And Kaishor gugulu is used for inflammation of the joints of pt2 conditions. So your bursitis, your tendonitis, these are normally used, and arthritis in both adults and children normally use Kaishor gugulu. However, Kaishor gugulu is, in the long term will create some problems, but people have responded very well. So a lot of people that do yoga, that initiate doing yoga and start developing, joint problems, normally go to Kaishor gugulu and within 1 month to 2 months resolve the issue. These are not things that you should be taking for a year. Kanchanar gugulu is actually another one which is very popular. So I'll write, okay, so Kaishor is that one, was the one for the inflammations of the joints. Kanchanar is the one, that is actually used when there are enlarged tumors and nodules on lymphatics of the neck. So when we have enlarged cervical glands, or when we have enlarged lymph nodes, normally we would use Kanchanar gugulu. And then there is Yogaraj gugulu, which is actually used more for degenerative arthritis like the osteoarthritis or chronic vata disorders, and which also can include neuritis or sciatic pain. Now, Baba Prakash recommends whenever someone is on a gugulu to avoid sour foods, any type of exposure to sunlight, as well as wine and anger, because obviously those are pitta-provoking, and the substance is pitta-provoking, so you would be a hot mess. So just be careful with the gugulus. There is one other thing that is very popular in India, which is the Chandra Prabhav. So you might have heard of Chandra Prabhav, and Chandra Prabhav is actually a gugulu, which is actually used when someone has, so Chandra Prabhav means moon glow, so it's actually used when anybody has the moon glow. That means that they're overall looking full, like a full moon, and they are glowing, but this time they're glowing because of the fat and the sudation. And so normally Chandra Prabhav is used for obesity and issues of polycystic ovarian syndrome, when it is also a metabolic syndrome. I feel I'm talking like a freight train. I hope that you're catching all my talkings. So anyway, the next thing that we need to cover is licorice. So licorice is very, very popular in Ayurveda, and it's actually called Yasti Madhu. So Yasti Madhu means actually sweet stick or sweet root. And basically, Glycyrrhiza glabra, which is the botanical name, is actually used all over the world. And so it's not necessarily an Ayurvedic herb, but Ayurveda just gives you a little bit more information. You can read more about it on page 220. But just for you to know that Charaka considers it a vitalizer, a nerve tonic, and also something that can be used to induce vomiting. Shushruta believes that it's one of the best wound healers, and also a healer for issues of the throat. And for you to know, Chinese medicine says that this is one of the herbs that truly benefits qi and reduces fire poison. So overall, it's sweet, bitter, cooling sweet, and it doesn't really have a prabhav. And in Ayurveda, we do use it for a variety of things. However, you do need to be mindful about licorice for a variety of things. So, on one hand, it said that it will liquefy kapha and it will increase energy. And so it strengthens the nerves overall. On the other hand, it is good for the lungs, as well as small and large intestines, because it's a demulcent. So it's a demulcent, it's expectorant, and it will, so because of this demulcent expectorant, it will actually help in conditions of ulcerative colitis, peptic ulcers, any types of burning sensations in the GI tract. For men, it will actually increase sperm count, and for women, it's viewed as an overall external tonic. So here is when we're doing either a ultrabasti or a sitz bath, and there are issues with the uterus. Now we're using it as a female reproductive tonic externally. It's also used for healing wounds, so normally in a ghee form. So now you're going to make a medicated ghee and use it on surgical wounds or ulcerated wounds. And also, if you have had any type of poison, this is kind of considered the antidote to poison. It's also used for urinary tract infections. And so normally you boil licorice in milk for urinary tract infection, as well as for the same way you would use it for as an aphrodisiac. So you mentioned, would you use it for GERD? Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely, but with caution. So the main caution about licorice is that licorice is a diuretic. And as a diuretic, it will deplete the body long-term from potassium. Once we lose our potassium in the body, normally what happens is that now we're going to have more cardiac stress. So hypertension has been linked to decreased potassium. So one of the main problems with licorice is this thing of increasing blood pressure in the long term. So what have they invented? Deglycerinized licorice. So this is what I use for GERD. So although Yasti Madhu is very famous in Ayurveda, I actually buy the standard extract called the DGL. Okay, so DGL is deglycerinized licorice, which actually removes the components that make it a diuretic. Okay, now I'm hearing myself echo, and I don't know if it's somebody having the microphone on or my computer is on the brink of extinction. So, well, we don't know. So anyway, so DGL is fantastic, and I've used it with my clients in great ways. We've been able to get off Tums and Provosix and whatever, because not only is it good for GERD, but it actually helps the lining of and prevent and heal the erosion of the lining of the esophagus. So this is really a fantastic herb to use for GERD. Another thing is you can actually also make a tea and use that tea as an eye wash. So basically, this is really good whenever you need to improve eyesight, or if you have dry eyes staring at a computer all the time, or if your eyes just have the tendency to be tired. This is excellent, excellent, excellent. So is it good for acid reflux? Yes. Where can I get it, as my husband is a victim? I order supplements from this company, which is really economical and really easy, which is called Swanson Vitamins. And they have a website. They have a 1-800 number. I'm looking for the catalog. Oh, yes, the catalog is on my desk here. So swansonvitamins.com. It's a 1-800-437-4148. I have no stakes in the company, but they're really good. And they're open 24/7, which I like, because sometimes I remember in the middle of the night to order stuff. And they answer the phone. How wonderful. Now, there are two things when you're buying herbs. You have to be careful. You can buy herbs, which are whole herbs, and that's at the back of the catalog, or you can buy things which are considered standardized extracts, okay? And they're called standard superior herbs, okay? So when you're buying the standard superior herbs, this is when you're going to get for DGL, the removal of the glycerinized piece that makes high blood pressure, or if you're getting the Bacopa, for example, for the memory, they will have the Bacopa, which is standardized to have extra bacosides, or if you're getting turmeric for cancer, they're going to have curcumin or turmeric with X amount of curcumin. Or if you're getting, like I always encourage people and herbalists to have milk thistle, because that's also a very good anti-poison. So because we're always experimenting with things, we need to have an anti-poison. But then it's like standardized at like 70% silymarin or something. So when you're buying herbs, you can buy whole herbs or standardized extract. Normally, standardized extracts are used when there are chronic conditions or when you're getting things for a specific short period of time. Whole herbs you're using when you're doing that physiological response, when you're wanting the body to get better. So where do I get the whole herbs? Normally, mountain rose herbs. Mountain rose herbs. I think Mountain Rose Herbs is one of the best companies in terms of quality of herbs, and it's Rosemary Gladstar is the one that initiated this company. They're really into protecting and not over harvesting and through truly doing things with consciousness. So I always use them. So for GERD, we would want to have the DGL because that really works on a really classic base. And then normally, once we start correcting the diet, you might not need to be using DGL after a period of 2 to 3 months. Okay. So anyway, I got to move on to Shatavari. So forget this licorice here. So now one big thing I need to tell you about licorice, because although I'm a big fan, I'm also not a big fan because it is a phytoestrogen. Okay, so being a phytoestrogen, anybody that has fibrocystic tendencies or that have or that are taking the pill will not be doing well on this herb. So they should beware of that. Another thing is to beware is if you're taking Triphala, because basically you now increase your risk of decrease of potassium. Or if the person is on interferon, which happens with somebody who has hepatitis C. Just there are contraindications to the herbs. So you just need to be mindful for licorice, because although it's fantastic, it's also a problem. So do your research, okay? If you're reading Sebastian Pohl's book, it's going to be on page 220. I'm like looking at my pile of all the herbs I have to talk to, and I only have 10 minutes. So Shatavari is the other herb, which is a very strong phytoestrogen herb. Asparagus racemosus. Everybody's talking about it. Yes, we probably will need another class. Although we are meeting again on the 27th, but that time for some prakti. But basically, we might have another class. I'm going to talk to Karen about it, because I'm pretty sure that with all the information I'm giving you, you're starting to develop questions in your mind. So Shatavari is another popular herb that you must have heard about, and this is Asparagus racemosus. This is normally, Shatavari means many, many wives. Shatavari. So basically, by using this herb, you are having the auspicious of 100 women, basically. And normally, what is viewed, this herb is normally viewed, one, as a dosha pratyanika for pitta. So it is considered both a female and male herb because it actually cools pitta in a fantastic way. So it can be used to calm the mind, calm hives, calm gastritis, calm urinary tract infections, anything that can happen because of high pitta. It'll also kind of relax burning sensations and anger overall. So it's great for that. So, peptic ulcers, duodenal ulcers, any type of ulcer or rage that the person can have in the GI tract, this is great. Also, any type of urinary tract infection, this is great. And it is normally used when we have need to increase either rasa or the juiciness of someone. So if someone is just dry and not juicy, shatavari is the one that is used. It's also, because it's a phytoestrogen, it is also used to bring about more sexual desire. So it's used in that period from in menarche, or from in the teenage years when somebody is not having, if somebody's having a delayed development, so then you can use it. And it's also used in perimenopause or menopause when there is decline of estrogen, and now we're using shatavari as your phytoestrogen that will also increase sexual desire and reduce vaginal dryness. So normally, very similar to ashwagandha, in India, this is one that is used with ghee or milk, because basically it's a better medium for this to be used. And so normally for the kind of breast growth, right, you're normally using 1 teaspoon of ghee. If we're using it for lactation, because it also is a galactagogue, so it's going to increase breast milk, we're normally using 1 teaspoon in a cup of milk. If we're using it for burning sensations, normally the medium is either going to be ghee or bitter ghee or rock candy, because India is very fond of sugar. So many times when pitta is high, ghee is the first thing that you should go to. If you have no herbs, at least you go to ghee. And if you don't have ghee, then you go to sugar. And then you go to a herb. So that's the way of thinking in Ayurveda when it comes to dealing with high pitta. However, I would say that the true medium is a oily, cooling base. So I'm Pitta Kapha, my Shatavari Ashoka Amla Vidari Punarnava mixture I use with aloe. Is that okay? So, it really depends. So, I'm Kapha Pitta instead of Pitta Kapha. But I cannot do Shatavari, and I cannot do Vidari, and I cannot do aloe vera, because these actually are phytoestrogens, and they start helping me develop fibrocystic changes in the breast. And when I am on them, the fibroids actually become even larger. So I would think that, depending, if the pitta is because the pitta is so high, it depends also what is the proportion of the mixture. It also depends on who made the mixture, because in preparations, you have the herbal ally. So let's say that I'm making preparations. Right, currently, my current herbal ally is Brahmi, Centella or Bacopa, both of them. I'm a Brahmi fan right now. It's not always the case. So no matter who is going to get some of that in their preparation, because I have developed such a relationship with that herb that this preparation is going to work because it's my ally, and it will help my preparation be delivered to the person in the way that I constructed it. Okay? And so yes, it is energy. On the other hand, if it's not something that was created by a practitioner that I trust or someone, and I just bought it off the counter, I would, yes, now you do need to question, because Shatavari is not a very intelligent herb. It can be an ally of somebody, and now it's using that other person's intelligence, but as it's a root, and as a root, it's not very sattvic. And so you need to, be mindful. So Shatavari, Vidari, aloe, these are phytoestrogens. If there are family histories of cancer in the family, so the mother, the aunt, the sister, I would not encourage that. Frankly, Ashoka alone is one of the best herbs for fibroids. So, next herb is actually Vidari. So did I talk enough about that? Yes, it's regarded as safe, but it's not safe. So the next one is Vidari, which is the herb that I wanted to talk to you about, because this is normally used for emaciation and general debility. And so this is also used when there is an enlarged liver or enlarged spleen. And this is also one of the best herbs to use when we need to nourish every single tissue of the body. So normally we have herbs for the tissues, we have herbs for the doshas, herbs for the tissues, and herbs for the srotas. However, when everything is debilitated and everything needs to be nourished, or we have a premature person or premature baby that needs nourishment at all tissue levels, this is when we pop out Vidari, because Vidari is considered sweet, bitter, cooling, sweet, but it's also a nutritive tonic and is an enhancer overall. Yes, Vidari. And so Vidari in your book is going to be on page 292, although I must say Sebastian Toll and I disagree on the Vidari being used. So he does not have Ipomea digitata, he has something else. So normally when you're buying, so this is interesting. So Ipomea digitata. So when you're buying herb, you need to make sure that you're buying the botanical name of what we're talking about, because basically Vidari, there are two different things in the market under the name of Vidari. So Ipomea digitata is sweet, bitter, cooling, sweet. Whatever he's quoting is actually heating. So, and actually whatever he's quoting is a little bit more bitter than this one. And this is considered instead the nutritive herb par excellence in Ayurveda. So, and it's considered overall tridoshic, but, obviously anything building is going to be a problem for anybody that has excess kapha. So, in general, this is really used to reduce vata. It's used for convalescence, so when somebody is sick and needs to get better. It's used in old age, and basically anybody that is debilitated. And typically, you're using it with milk. And even for low libido, you're using it half a teaspoon twice a day in milk. Now, there were a few compounds that we were supposed to cover, but I have just a few minutes, so I'm just going to give you the highlights, okay? So the highlight of Dashamula. So Dashamula means 10 roots, and basically this highlight is that this controls Vata dosha. It is extremely heating. So some people can't deal with it because it's heating. That's why Ipomea digitata is really a very good Vata dosha balancer because it's really not that cooling, but it actually gives nourishment to the body. But anyway, as Dashamula, you'll have it as a tea, you'll have it as an enema. In Ayurveda, this is viewed as the one that can treat sciatica. It can treat Vata in the hip a joint area. It will also treat depression and actually will keep things grounded. Dashamula means 10 roots. So this is definitely used when the person needs grounding. It's definitely not recommended for pregnancy, but it is recommended for depression. Then we have Mahasudarshan. Mahasudarshan. And this is Mahasudarshan is actually considered the antibiotic in Ayurvedic medicine. So it's a compound of 54 different ingredients, and normally this is available as it's used for fever, for malaria, for liver spleen disease, for lymphatic disorders, even as something for constipation, for nausea, for fatigue, but overall it's our broad spectrum antibiotic. Then we have things like pt2, which we talked about last time because basically this is very popular. Pt2 is our long pepper, black pepper, and ginger. So now we have this, trifecta, which is basically promoting rapid absorption in the GI tract and is promoting circulation and also elimination. So this is used when we have low metabolism and when we need to move things in the body, even if there's chest congestion, too much mucus, body aches and chills. Ama, Trikatu will get rid of it. And then, of course, Trifala, which are our 3 fruits, which are basically used for the N doesn't go there, right? But basically, this is used as the overall rasayana. It helps eliminate feces, and eventually it pacifies the 3 doshas. So at first, it will work on getting rid of ama from the body, and after it has worked on getting ama from the body, from the GI tract, it works on all other tissues and getting ama rid from that. And that's why it's used as a rasayana. Now, any rasayana should be used for a period of time, and we should not be developing dependency on Trifala to have our bodily functions. So just, keep that in mind. And, there are different ways of taking Trifala. Some people take Trifala as a pill. Some people are taking Trifala as a tea. I usually recommend when you're starting to do Trifala, you should actually be putting Trifala in boiled water, and you should be making actually a decoction. Then you let that sit, and so you drink the top part of the decoction, and then you refill the grains. You don't drink the grit or grains, you leave them there. You refill that with water, and you drink that water the next morning. So I usually do not recommend using Trifala. So in using it in ghee, normally it's not used in food. So normally Trifala in ghee is just taken on its own. It's not added to food. But, in Ayurveda, this is one way of cleansing, using Trifala. Now, there are different ways of having Trifala. So although you buy Trifala, so I usually recommend buying Trifala at night. If I have pills, hey, take the pill. It's easy, and I think you will comply a little bit better. Normally, Trifala, yes, is taken at night. You could take the pills. You could do it the other way. One thing that you don't want to do is develop dependency on Trifala. So if you're having your cycle, you should not be on Trifala. And every now and then, you should give your body a break from Trifala. So you shouldn't be always using a scraper to have a bowel movement. So in Ayurveda, remember, we have our cleansing therapies. I don't know if you've already done that, which is Dipana, Pachana, Trut Nigra, Shut Nigra, Maruta Seva, Vyayama, and Atapa Seva. So these are about kindling the digestive fire, burning away ama, observing thirst or kind of doing the hunger observances or fasting, being out in the wind, doing exercise, and being out in the sun. These are things that help get rid of toxicity. So you don't necessarily always have to do Triphala if you don't need cleansing. Just a thought. Anyway, as students of Ayurveda, you always have to go through some Triphala. That way you know what it does to your body. So you do need to try it. You do need to, have it. And you might want to do it for a period of time or a longer period of time, but you need to know what it feels like before you recommend this. But it's very classic and very true that any Ayurvedic practitioner will always recommend Triphala, but really Triphala is not for everybody. After a while, you'll learn that. So, and it is used as a cleanser, as well as a rejuvenative in the future. So, unfortunately, our time's up. So, it's already 1:31. I went overtime, and I still feel like a talk more. But anyway, could it be used once in a while for overindulgence of food? Absolutely. So, a question came in: if we can use Triphala when we have overindulgence of food? Absolutely. Is there any daily herbs you use? Yeah, there are a couple of daily herbs I use because in Ayurveda you can meditate. That's true, but it's also very true that you might have a condition, or you might be, and we'll learn it in Saprati, you might be always feeding something that can help a condition develop. So I take, for example, a herbal formula that is for the heart. I don't have anything happening with my heart yet, or ever. Let's not knocking on wood. But basically, so I'm taking a herbal rejuvenative for my heart every day, every morning. But I don't necessarily take Triphala every day. I did that for a period of time. Now it's not necessary. So there are different ways in which you can cleanse things. You can choose to go the herbal route, but you can use to do Agnihotra. You can choose to do Trataka. You can choose to eat mindfully, not to create more. And so you can use yamas and niyamas. There are various ways of cleansing. So you have to be just mindful of that. All right. Thank you so much for your attention to the subject. I will see you in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about Samprakti, one of my favorite subjects. So have a great weekend. Be in love. Be in love with life. Be in love with yourself. Happy Valentine's.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're so welcome. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.